Okay. Everyone in? Yes, everyone out? Alright, cool. Where's my slide deck? Yes, so yes, where am I? Is that control? Yes, okay, cool. So thank you everyone for coming tonight. Just before we start with the talk, some branch news and some tech news. I'd like to thank Gabrielle and Lisa Liu for joining the committee, and Gabrielle for taking on the webmaster position. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks or months, we may see some changes to our glorious website. just a reminder that previous live streams, which include the AGM and lightning talks and the GDPR talk that we did back in March, are available on the YouTube channel, BCS Glasgow. You can find us by doing BCS Glasgow search on YouTube. And our next talk after this is going to be second Monday in November. It's going to be by Adam Tilthorpe, who is, I believe, the BCS policy person. Or, yeah, I believe he's taking up policy and a couple other roles down at BCS. So we're having someone from HQ up to talk to us about a variety of things regarding BCS, its role in the industry, and what it should be doing. Some tech news. We have a lot of tech news just popped in the last couple of days, and I decided to let you guys know about this. We've got some news about some new WPA2 attacks, again following the crack pattern. So we're looking at reinstallation of keys in a variety of interesting ways, which will probably get patched, but you should be aware of it if you rely on WPA2 for security, which most of us do. We have a big infection of consumer devices going on in Brazil at the moment. It just recently surged in, I think, the last 24 hours to over 100,000 consumer devices, and it's hitting a wide range of hardware types. And its goal is to redirect consumers' web traffic from legitimate sites to cloned sites and to steal their login credentials and stuff. So banks, online shopping, that kind of stuff. We've got some interesting stuff happening in the server space. There's been a reported iDRAC flaw for the 12th and 13th generation models that basically allow for complete owning of the servers if it gets in. So if your management network isn't locked down, you're going to have a big problem and a bad day. And a most interesting piece of investigative journalism, we're not really sure if it is true or not. There's been a Bloomberg article that I think came out 4 days ago where they were basically saying that there's been discovered but not released a hardware attack by the state actor of China through Supermicro against basically the entire Western world. They've claimed that there's been chips implanted on the Supermicro motherboards that take over the baseband control module, whatever it's called, and allowed the China to basically own the servers as and when they please. Basically, the only thing you can do to detect these things, unless you have tons and tons of money and lots of magnifying glasses, is to really monitor your network. Because that's the only way you're ever going to see this. If it is true, we don't know yet, and we may never know. But interesting tech news. So with that out of the way, we're going to bring Kenny up, and he's going to give you the main talk.
Hopefully this will work first time. You or me? So, hi, thanks everyone for coming. I'm Kenny. So for about the last 6 years or so, I've been working with Scottish TV. First off, I started as a web developer, now and then eventually going to kind of DevOps, looking after AWS architecture, and mainly looking after live streaming technologies for them. And more recently than that, I've just started working with the BBC on digital archives. But rather than have my employer's hat on today I'm going to have my open source hat on. Since 2007, I've been working with the KDE community. In 2007, I think I was about 18 at the time, maybe 19. Young Kenny, still in school, noticed that KDE, the open source desktop, running a conference in Glasgow. I found any way I could get myself involved, volunteers as a runner and everything else. But since then, I've just kind of hung around, and I've kind of got more and more involved in helping them run the conferences, but I'll explain that a little bit. For the last couple of years, I've been mainly focused on the video delivery side during their annual conference. One thing to note is that a lot of what I'm going to talk about tonight isn't stuff that I worked on myself. A lot of this is stuff that a full team of people. KDE is massive. There isn't just people in KDE doing this. I'll talk more and more about other organisations facing the same problems. But the KDE community, this is a tiny part of the group vote for this year. There was hundreds of people at the event this year. And in particular, a lot of the ideas I'm going to talk about were originally devised by another guy called Kenny, actually lives in Glasgow as well. We get together every couple of weeks and we work on this stuff. Kenny's a co-organiser of the main conference I'm going to talk about tonight. So, who here knows what KDE is? Just to kind of get a rough idea. Cool. So, for those of you who don't know, KDE is one of the most popular Linux desktop. Well, it was originally one of the most popular Linux desktops that you could use. Now KDE itself is a community. One of the products of that community are the desktop product. There's a whole bunch of other products involved with that. They're also a community who build cool stuff, get together, they actively work in the privacy-oriented community as well. There's a set of goals about privacy and customization and everything else that the community trying to achieve. But one thing I want to make clear is that KDE is no longer just that one software product that you see. There are massive community of people building tons of products, running an infrastructure, and actively participating in paid open source. So, the main thing we're going to talk about tonight are conferences. Once a year, KDE get together. They they get together around different places in Europe every year. Last year was Vienna, 10 years ago was in Glasgow, in Gran Canaria, tons of times in Spain, things like that. We've done Berlin a couple of times as well. But conferences aren't just where people get together and talk about stuff. They're alive, they're full of people, they're squishy because you don't know what shape they're in until they're finished, and they still don't have a solid shape. You can plan for a conference to go a certain way, something else is going to happen during it. That's quite fun. They have tentacles, and by that I mean when you're organising one of these, you could focus on, say, the lanyards that people are wearing. That's just one example, and you'll probably find that just printing those lanyards, getting them handed out, is actually a massive task in itself, and probably that itself is worth a talk. But tonight I want to talk about the video, and there's a reason for that. What question are we asked the most when we're organising these conferences? Some of you will know the answer. You know the answer. Is this being recorded? I was rehearsing this earlier last week, and one of the people that was there, also an open source community member, said to me that conferences are one of the least inclusive things that an open source community can do. Not by design, because the whole point of a conference is to increase the effectiveness of the community, try to make the community more inclusive, but by design or just by sheer accident, you cannot do that. They are the least inclusive thing that you can achieve. Mainly because everyone's together, you've got a worldwide community of people. KDE has people in New Zealand. We finally met one of our long-term contributors this year from New Zealand for the first time ever this year. We've got people in India, people in America, and everything else, and it's just difficult to get everyone together. So the important thing about a conference is it being recorded, is it being streamed? And the one thing that we're always asked by everyone is, when will these videos be online? And that's what this talk's about. It's about what's involved in actually getting these videos online. So you think conference video, simple enough. Stick a camera there, get a laptop, get a live stream, away you go. But let's think about it a bit more professionally, a bit more like you're trying to deliver a product. So what are the functional requirements? Two things that people want to see out of a conference is live streaming, as Will has done a great job of tonight, and video on demand. So you want to see, at some point after a conference, you can download them, you can watch them at your own leisure. It's an open source conference, everything is free as in freedom. You want to release it under some sort of license, and live streaming during the event for anyone who might be interested in watching it, in particular those people who cannot be there at the physical event because it's hard for them for whatever reason. What about non-functional requirements? Your live streaming needs to scale. Imagine you had 5 people watching a stream, and all of a sudden something really interesting happens, someone tweets, someone sticks it on Reddit, instantly you might need to scale up to 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000. I've yet to see that happen with an open source conference, but it could happen easily. You also expect the audio to be decent, the video to be decent. I'll go into why that's actually quite difficult to achieve. And for your video on demand, this is quite an interesting one. It needs to be available more or less instantly. You don't want to be waiting weeks. I've yet to achieve this, by the way. I've yet to achieve not waiting weeks before videos are online. I think the best I've done is 7 days. And that was just because everything by sheer luck came together. And I'll explain that later on as well. You also expect it to be easy to find. So you've been asked to do, I'm going to unplug this and try and plug it back in again. That's okay. So you've been asked to do video at a conference. And let's say you're lucky and that is the only problem you're trying to solve for this entire event. Normally, the core organisers of an event are doing everything else as well. But let's just say your one job is video. You had one job is video. First thing you're going to do is look at what other organisations are doing. And so we do this every year, and we look at 3 main organisations. C3VOC. C3VOC is a chaos communication club in Berlin, or all over Germany actually. They run a massive conference in between Christmas and New Year every year. Massive camp, you've got thousands of hackers there, and they've built their own technology. They've got the budget to build their own technology, buy in cameras, look at the firmware that's running on the cameras. A good example of C3VOC is they discovered that one of the JVC professional cameras they'd bought was actually running Linux. But it wasn't officially announced as running Linux, so they put in a GPL request to JVC. They got the source code for the kernel back. So they hacked that source code to then allow that camera to send their stream directly to the editing software that they wrote. So C3VOC are technologically superior in every way. They've built this as a service. They've built lots of technology, and this is kind of what we want to achieve technology-wise. But obviously, the scale by which they work, because they have a large event, they've even got warehouses for equipment and stuff, fairly close to the site. So they've got it kind of locked down for their particular use case, and they develop it every year. The other inspiration we'll look at is FOSDEM. So for KDE, we generally do 2 tracks simultaneous for 2 days. FOSDEM do 24 tracks simultaneous for 2 days. That is literally 24 times 8 per day. So they deal with delivery, they need to deal with capture, they need to automate as much of that as possible. So we also look at how FOSDEM do it, because one of the biggest problems that you have is actually volunteer time. Again, FOSDEM get a lot of donations. Cisco donated networks, you can rent cameras and things like that. A lot of the problems I'm talking about today, you can hire a solution, but that's not really sustainable when you're doing this for 10, 15, 20 years. In open source, you want to try and limit your costs, you want to make it sustainable. And what we're doing here is trying to make that sustainable and reusable. FOSDEM have developed their own hardware using Banana Pis. I think they still hire cameras, but they're looking at other options right now. And they actually use the editing software or the mixing software written by C3VOC to achieve what they want to do. And the other thing that we'll look at is other communities. So Gwadek, who here's heard of GNOME, the other Linux desktop? So GNOME are good friends. GNOME have the exact same problems as us every year. We often sometimes we accidentally use the same venue that they used the year before, or vice versa. It just happens to be that there's open source communities willing to help us out on these conferences. So we look at what GNOME do. Sometimes they'll hire a solution, sometimes they'll build one like us. We're trying to build something that we can use every year. So next thing we want to do is look at how we're going to deliver this product. So this product is, again, 2 things: live streaming, video on demand. So for video on demand, it's fairly simple. And that's why there's only one point here. We want to build a CDN. Again, in KDE, we don't want to use things like Amazon CloudFront. We don't want to go to, say, level 3 and just say, let us buy this bandwidth solution off of you. So we built a CDN using a tool called MirrorBrain. It's the same software that is used to run your distribution networks for your open source software. It's fairly simple, it works well, and KDE get a ton of donated bandwidth, which is pretty awesome. This year we accidentally burst the amount of donated bandwidth that we use, but that's quite fun. The other thing we want to do is, again, live streaming, which, again, fairly simple. It's simple now, it wasn't 10 years ago. We deliver a stream to a server that we run over RTSP or RTMP, and then we deliver it from there to anyone who wants to see it over HLS. Great thing about HLS is that you can stick mirror brain in front of it, at which point you can scale your HLS live stream as much as you need to. Next thing we want to do is think about how we're actually going to capture. So we've got this delivery network in place. And again, this is something we're still trying to build here. Every year we try and add to this. We haven't quite achieved exactly what we're talking about, and I'll explain why later. So next thing I want to do is get sound together. I noticed that Will stuck a lapel mic on me, so I hope that the audio is going to sound okay. But one problem that we have every 1.5 years is trying to get good audio. So that a couple of years ago, we came up with the idea of getting a bunch of boundary mics. So I hope you don't mind me going to pick one of these up, but we ended up buying a bunch of these off eBay fairly cheaply. A little bit bigger, but we're basically enough that we can plant 2 at the bottom of every room, and then we trail a ton of cable back up to them. So that goes into the left channel, and in the right channel, we sometimes, if we're lucky, we get the room audio, as you can see we've got today, and then we record it. At the end of it, we will then determine which of the audio is better, left, right, or mixed. This year in particular, we managed to get really good audio from room 1 through the boundary mics. We got good audio from room 2 of the room mics. It's just hit and miss. You can't always guarantee that what you plan to get is going to happen, so you need to have a backup there. You also want to split the audio out. If your one point of audio and video sync is one laptop or one computer, that's a problem, because if that machine crashes, you've lost that particular 5 minutes. So you want to have some form of isolated circuit with a backup of that audio going somewhere. And again, something we don't always achieve every year, but we try to make sure we've at least got that. One of the worst things that can happen is that you lose all your videos, and we have had that happen before, and it's a horrible experience. Next thing, this is a bit of a show and tell actually, is video cameras. So most people who do this sort of thing, if you go to a different country every year, it's quite hard because you normally rent cameras. One year we rented cameras here, we got excess luggage, we took them off to the venue, paid for the extra insurance and everything else, and brought them back at a certain date. Some years we're lucky enough we can get cameras on site, some years we're lucky enough that someone can acquire the cameras for us. This is not sustainable, because it seems every year you're just putting money into something that you're not going to get back, something that you can only ever use at one time. It's not really useful. So one thing that Kenny Duff has come up with this year, and I'm really giving him the credit for this because it's a genius idea. I'm going to pass this around for folk to see. This is a Raspberry Pi with a custom camera module on it. This can get the distance of this room 4 times and still get a really sharp picture. So we use this, and we use another Raspberry Pi with a wide zoom. We use 2 cameras. So I'm going to pass this around, and again, it's got a card in it. We stick an extra USB slot in it, and then that allows us to have a backup as well that we can remount. So we can pass that along over there. Also means you can have some fun with a glue gun. But I've yet to actually build one of these myself. These are all Kenny that built these. But there's 3 of these in total, so we've got 1 per room, 1 backup. Everything we have, we always make sure there's a backup. I'll explain later on, but things will always break in transit. So that's it there. And the bottom of that, you'll see, can take a little mount. So you can actually stick it on a proper camera stand, and we ship the camera stands with us as well. The other thing that, again, more show and tell bits, is slides. So something that you'll have noticed that people expect nowadays is a sharp picture of what's on the back of the projector. You can no longer get away with just pointing a camera at the projector and hoping that the quality is going to be okay. Although some years you do that as a backup, but that's just what you do. So you could go out and you could get a Blackmagic HDMI capture device. There's a couple of other devices that you can get. The biggest problem that you normally have is that you need USB 3 for them, because HDMI is a lot of bandwidth. So what we ended up doing is we discovered these little devices here. These little devices are designed to take HDMI in on one end, take Ethernet on the other end, and then you would have a receiver device on the other end of your house, and you would use these for sending video, say from a Blu-ray player in your back room to your living room or something else. But it turns out that the actual Ethernet cable, it isn't just using Ethernet to send it across the wire as it is. It's actually multicast IP. So you can capture that. What about IP table trickery? And then just using VLC, you can actually capture the HDMI coming in. And again, you can mix that with everything coming live. I'm going to pass it around for folk to see. the great thing is you can buy these things on eBay for like 20 quid rather than spending a couple of hundred on a albeit if you spend a couple of hundred on a reliable Blackmagic device, you're going to get a much more reliable Blackmagic device. But these little devices just work. They work really well. A couple of laptops don't like them. My MacBook doesn't like them, but that's just my MacBook. But for the most part, people running Linux desktops, it works okay. Next thing is the idea of mixing it all together. So you normally see the presenters up the top left, the slides are on the bottom right, sometimes they mix around with some other things. Initially this year and last year, we were going to use a tool called Voctomix, developed by our good friends over at C3Voc. Voctomix is actually pretty awesome in that you can just send video over a port in a certain format and it can pick it up. So you can have as many inputs as you want, and for outputs, if you want to say output the main feed, you literally listen on a TCP socket, convert it to whatever it has to go to, and save it. Is HDMI okay? I'm nervous about this lead. Yeah. Just nervous in case I broke it, because I tend to do that. That's why we take 3 of everything. Awesome, cool. I'm not going to move that until it breaks again. But yeah, we're going to use Voctomix this year, and we tested and we built a full pipeline. The good thing about Voctomix is you can actually store your entire video configuration in Git, because it is literally scripts using FFmpeg or GStreamer. You join everything together. But then we hit a bit of a snag, and I noticed that we're dropping frames a lot. And then I looked at CPU, and then I realised we're running about 7 encode decode streams using H.264 to RAW and everything else. Voctomix likes CPU. C3Voc will sometimes wheel in a bunch of servers into a venue. We don't quite have that luxury. I wish we did, but not quite. So Voctomix, we could have limited the CPU probably, but we couldn't have achieved quite what we're trying to do. Not as well as we'd like to. So we started talking about further alternatives, and we ended up finding OBS. OBS again, it's being used to stream this talk. Really flexible. You can literally just drag and drop your UI, tell it I've got that input on VLC, so it works really well for the streamers. I've got that camera coming from a webcam and that camera coming from IP. So that Raspberry Pi that you've got floating about there is actually an RTSP server that you can plug VLC into, and OBS just speaks to it with about 2.075 seconds of delay. And that number is important because you need to make sure your audio and videos linked up. But yeah, we noticed that OBS, you can get away with having a single encode decode stream. Your CPU load goes from say 90 to about 40, depending on the type of CPU you had. We used this MacBook for one, and we had a Desktop Mini for another. That worked out a bit more. On the MacBook, it was dropping packets, so we were trying to do things a bit more powerful, but that's just a learning experience. Biggest problem I had with it though, lots of scope for mistakes. Voctomix is awesome. You set up your scene, and you tell the person who's running the video stuff you can press 1, 2, 3 or 4. That's your different view setups, that's all you can press. It can't break. On OBS, we're asking people to drag things about, to drop them, to change text on the screen and everything else, so that can be a problem. So this year we ended up going for OBS, fairly happy, like I said. We didn't make that many mistakes, but we're going to try and limit that next year, and we're going to try to get a couple of MIDI controller devices. And again, big blocky buttons for each option. So I mentioned shipping. So you've got some cameras, you've got some camera stands, you've got probably a couple of 100 meters of copper cabling. As well as that, you've got printers and monitors and various other stationery. How do you get all of that from where you are here in Scotland to wherever the conference is? Like I said, it was in Vienna last year. We had it in Spain the year before. Had it all over the shop. So how do we get that to where it needs to go? We ship it in a pallet. So for the last 2 years, we've had a lorry come down my street, pick this pallet from a driveway. Lives over the year, it lives in the house, but outside of that, we stick it in the bottom of the pallet and we ship it across. I didn't put it in here, but I've got a photo of it when it came back. But it came back twice the height because of the things we had to get over there. It grows every year. I can see next year being a full-size pallet. So this itself turned into a fair bit of logistics trying to. We were actually struggling for space in all these various boxes. So you've done all the prior work, you've planned it, you've got all your cameras working. Like, building those cameras took Kenny a long time. You've wrote a whole bunch of random software and everything else. Now comes the event. You've practiced it, haven't you? You've got 45 minutes per room to get set up. Practice it. Not this year. This year the art school burnt down. We normally meet up every couple of weeks at the CCA to practice and build and test this stuff. But the art school burnt down this year, which meant we couldn't get access to the CCA. So we could practice it a little bit in the house, but not quite to the same degree. But at the same time, it's important, if you're doing this sort of work, do dry runs, practice it. Things will go wrong. But that's okay. We learn from our mistakes. And I think we did okay. We ran about 10 minutes late in the end. We're kind of okay. The next thing you want to think about during the event is volunteers. And again, another mention FOSDEM. FOSDEM built an awesome system that allows volunteers weeks, months before the event to register. They linked this up to KDE's LDAP account, KDE's LDAP server. KDE's got a shared community identity system, so if you contribute to the code base, you can access everything else. So anyone who's a volunteer in KDE could log into this volunteer system, see what they're interested in doing. It links back to our schedule again. Thanks FOSDEM for writing a whole bunch of scripts to do that. It automatically allocates tasks to those who are interested. What it also does is it allows us to keep a track of volunteers who come back every year. There are some people now that we already know. If they volunteer to do video, awesome, because they are perfect at it every year and we don't need to train them. And the great thing about that is, if we know they've done video before, we know that they can train other people, and then they can train other people. Time is at a premium when you're at these places, and if you can get a volunteer who's done it before to help you out, you're a winner there. And you want to try and recruit them for the longer term work as well over the year, because if they're coming back, it means that you haven't annoyed them enough, and it means that during the year they can help you build this technology. Now, a little bit of show and tell. So, is anyone here involved in running university networks? No one at all? I was hoping that's what the answer was going to be. So, normally academies at a university, because normally there's a student organisation who's able to get us room bookings and everything else. This year it was the equivalent to Straftech in Vienna who got us access to the rooms effectively at a discount rate and everything else. This is how open source thrives. But one thing that you always need to plan for is how the network's going to work over there. It used to be we would plug all this stuff into a switch which plugged at the university network, and we would rely on their infrastructure to allow our equipment to talk to each other. That's not really sustainable. So now we should. Another thing that university networks tend to do is have weird login portals. You might be lucky, it might be EduRoam, and someone might have an EduRoam login. You'd hope, but normally it is some proprietary system that only that university have, that they went out and they bought it off of someone, etc., etc. So what we've started doing is we discovered these little devices last year. So now we take our own set of switches, we take these little things, and again, you got show and tell. These things are like a tenner to buy from various Chinese electronics places. They run open WRT, you can SSH into them, and a little USB port on them allows you to effectively run an NFS server on them. They're pretty cool. And you can connect them to the Wi-Fi, log them in, and then they can act as the access point for the rest of your infrastructure. So we don't quite need to worry about this stuff anymore, we just have one of those. So you're there, everything's plugged in, all your machines are streaming and being recorded. You're a wee bit nervous because when you're there, you've got your volunteers looking after everything. You're just kind of hoping and praying that everything's going okay, and you're checking up on them, but trying not to check up on them too much, you know what I mean? So during the event, then you want to think about post-processing the videos, because you're live streaming fine. But even if you're live streaming, how do you know that your recordings are going to be okay? You want to keep an eye on the schedule. Are people moving? Have people moved the schedule at all? Has someone asked for a certain requirement for a laptop or to have a camera for a device? KDE does a lot of mobile stuff. KDE Mobile is one of the flagship products at the moment. So sometimes you need a camera to look at a phone. You need to make sure that all that stuff is set up for someone, even if they are moved room. So we use a tool called Frab to do all this sort of stuff. It manages the whole submission of talks all the way through to the actual delivery of the talk. And it also has an event bus for all changes that we can listen to during the day. So whenever something changes, we can have it trigger an email or something else. We haven't done anything too crazy with it, but we want to make it a bit more involved and have someone who's responsible for making sure that rooms are up to date when this gets updated. But this drives how your recordings work. This drives who's in what rooms and when. It also drives if there's a black spot when you can go in and do some maintenance on equipment, because things get unplugged, things get plugged into where they shouldn't go. Sometimes cables get tangled up and there's a health and safety issue. You want to try and use any space where a room is free for 30 minutes or so. That's really valuable time. Get in there, double check everything. And at the end of it, you want to think about delivering the assets. So you've live streamed, you've recorded, you've got some raw video, but sometimes you also want to tack some sponsor bumpers at the bottom of it. You also want to tack some custom intros with some names, some descriptions, and everything else. You want to add the conference brand to it because that's one of the main reasons you're there. And you want to make it an enjoyable experience for people. Sometimes you might even need to post-process the audio. This year we had to do a bit of post-processing of the audio. And then at the end of it, you want to encode to some mezzanine format. So all of that takes quite a lot of CPU. Generating the custom intros is quite difficult. Luckily we have Frab, it has an API, so we can automatically feed that the data that it needs. But again, you need a lot of CPU to actually make that video. Encoding video is a pretty heavy job. But yeah, at the end of it, you want to encode to a mezzanine format. And by that I mean, don't encode it to the format that you then deliver it to people online. Encode it to a format that you can put online easily, and then let online encoders do the rest of the work. Amazon, you can hire the Elastic Transcoder dead cheap. You can throw a video at it, it can make 10 copies of it at various bit rates and everything else. Then people can consume those. You don't need to worry about making 10 different copies locally. But at the same time, you need a ton of CPU on site to get that mezzanine format happen. And gluing all this together, I would like to go into it more. I was hoping to have a demo of it all being glued together, but things just didn't quite work out. We're trying to build some form of kind of broadcast strategy. You can buy off of broadcast vendors tools to do exactly all of this for millions of pounds. Because this is broadcasters' main business. Take live feed, chop it up, make it reusable, make it so the assets can be used somewhere else, and put a channel at the end of it. So what we're trying to do is build some form of input and output system. At the moment it's built in Rails, it's a little bit hacky, but it's just what it is when you write it on a plane on the way to a venue. But we're trying to build something that will monitor the schedule, monitor the feed, and annoyingly YouTube does this. This stream that's going out just now will be available to watch in the pass-rec way. But again, in the open source community, you don't want to rely on these proprietary vendor managed tools. So we want to build our own non-proprietary, non-vendor managed tool, and then make it so that everyone else can see it. C3VOC have made some effort to go towards this route, and they've got one that works really well for their workflow. But again, we're not quite at the scale that we need, nor do we have the CPU on site that we'd like. So at the end of it, you have two scenarios. Everything went well. Before you go home, the assets are online. You can go home, you can sleep, you don't need to worry about it. Or if things don't go well, and this happens almost every year, you spend the next couple of weeks post-processing, cutting, editing, encoding. This is something that we're still working on. Everything I spoke about is things that we're trying to achieve. Some years will do better than others, but we're trying to just make it a standardised format. Write some runbooks, treat it like it is an actual production that you're trying to achieve. So, does anyone remember the question I asked at the start of the talk? When will the videos be online? When they're ready. It's totally understandable. People want to see their talk online right away. Totally don't blame them. See other conferences do it. To be honest, they deserve that. They've worked so hard for it. It's going to take us a while to get to where we want to be, and we want to make it so these tools can be used by anyone. But really, they will be ready when they're ready, and hopefully next year they'll be ready sooner, and the year after they'll be sooner than that. If it was up to me, we could have it automatically published, live streamed, and within 10-15 minutes of the talk finishing, it's top-tailed, it's online, it's already on the CDN. We're going to achieve it. It might take us a couple of years. But until then, who wants to give us a hand? Obviously, any questions? Oh.
So, how much is one of these Raspberry Pi constructions, and are the designs available all open source?
Less than £100, we've yet to formalise the designs that anyone else can use, but that's part of what we're trying to achieve. But at the moment, they're about less than £100 to buy. You can also get the wide view ones, just use a standard Raspberry Pi camera, which is probably the easiest to achieve one because you can buy cases already like that, and you don't need to get Dremel out and whatever else. You can do those for £50, £60.
And the palette that you have, the palette full of materials,
Yeah.
how often does it go wandering globally? Is it just
at the moment once a year? We don't know. We're not really sure how well that's going to work in the future, depending on outside influences in terms of shipping large amounts of things. But at the moment it's once a year. We'd like to do it a lot more often. It's very much Academy in a box. There's a lot of things that are KDE centric in there. But I would imagine that if we open source design, there's no reason why other people can't build their own kit box that can then be shared around.
I'm just also thinking about it as a significant asset, which is spending 340 days of the year.
So that's actually a problem that we have, and it's a discussion that we have a lot. With it being in Scotland and us meeting up every fortnight, having the equipment there to build and develop on works for us. But yeah, right, it would be good if we could share it a lot more within the community and everything else. Another reason that we try to build the equipment that we do is as much as it's a significant asset, none of it's really that expensive. It's safe. It's at my house, there's house insurance and stuff, but and we split it between us during the year as well. But yeah, you are right. We should use it a lot more often.
It's just that Glasgow is one of the most popular conference venues for scientific and other conferences, well, in the UK. So there's probably a variety of conferences, albeit not all open source, that might benefit from this. Anyway, thank you.
So on the note of reusing this technology for other places, I was at OggCamp not too long after Academy, and there was someone speaking about exactly this. He was talking about how they manage their schedule, how they manage volunteers and everything else. And then at the end of the asking questions, I said, have you spoke to any other community about any of these problems? It's like, no, we've just been using these tools because we googled it. We're using the exact tool we're using in KDE. Is there any way that we can get efforts together? Because we've solved a few problems that you're trying to solve, and you've solved a few problems that we need to do this year. What you find is that a lot of open source communities are using the same tools, they're just not talking to each other. We're much better at it than we were 5 years ago, but we've got a long way to go there.
What help are you needing? You say we need your help, so what kind of help are you looking for? One.
At the moment, I'll continue on.
The second part of that is, who do you see your clients being?
We're not a business. I'll answer that backwards. So the clients in this particular world are anyone in the open source community who wants to achieve what we're trying to achieve. We're not necessarily a commercial organisation. I would argue this is not commercial grade broadcast, but eventually one day we want to aspire to be that. What was the first question, sorry?
You say you need help.
Oh, yeah.
What help are you looking for?
At the moment, software and design. So we have a prototype of this full automation system that we're trying to achieve. We need to build this. Ideally, we can build something. I'm actually in the middle of writing the spec for that at the moment. We need something that you can live stream to a location at a low bandwidth, while at the same time on site encoding your videos as they come in. We just need to build this pipeline. There's many ways we can achieve that. At the moment, we're trying to write the software to do so. And then after that, we want to look at the hardware again. I think we've got the hardware kind of down this year for the next couple of years. But every year, a new video technology comes out. We used to have a awesome workflow that involved lots of FireWire video being thrown across a network. And then you can't buy anything that does FireWire anymore. So every year, whenever the next thing comes out to deprecate the last thing, we always need to refresh the hardware a little bit. We're hoping that we're building more future-proof stuff now, but you can never future-proof something that you don't really know. At the moment, for the next year coming, as building this software, because this is key to what we're trying to achieve regardless of what happens in the future.
I'll ask the question about clients in a different way. It doesn't need to be a business as such, but do you not see yourself providing this kind of, I'll call it service, to the voluntary sector?
That would be awesome. I don't think we're there yet, but once we have a mature system, I can't see why not. And it's probably something that I'm not really sure KDE as an arm would want to do, but there's no reason that we can't build this technology, let the voluntary sector use the technology, make it easy for them to use, and if they need help, there's a community here for them.
Can your existing kit hook into NDI?
Hook into what?
NDI.
I haven't played with NDI yet. What would that allow us to achieve?
Video over networks directly.
That's what we do. We don't use NDI to do it, but everything in our existing workflow is video over IP.
Yep.
So I would imagine if we wanted to change the trunk that we're using to deliver that video, it's just IP. It's simple enough to do.
Yep. Just thinking of interconnect.
Yeah. But yeah, everything we do is over IP. C3 VOC have an amazing system where they actually take SDI and then they convert that to IP and then push it back to SDI. Unfortunately, that's too expensive and not really sustainable. Again, technologies that might not be here in 10 years' time. Although broadcast has kind of solidified on SDI for the time being.
What are the current mezzanine codecs that you use at the moment, and do you like them?
Mezzanine at the moment, for what we're trying to achieve, is H.264. No, I don't like it. You can deliver on H.264. As part of building this, I want to do some experimentations. At the moment, we just try to encode to the smallest possible that we can when we're on site. I would like to look at VP8, VP9. AD1 could actually be the best way to go. Codec technology in the next year is going to explode. I think there's lots of commercial organisations trying to take over the space. Ideally, MXF format, but I can't publish 60 gig per file. That would be the ideal mezzanine format, but no, at the moment it's just H.264, which is most definitely not ideal for what we're trying to achieve.
You were talking about having compute power on site to handle this. So if you wanted to move to AV1, is that if I remember correctly, that's comparable to like 265 at the moment?
Yeah.
Right? So how much more compute are you going to need if you're getting by with a small amount for 264?
At the moment, well, we're not really getting by with H.264. That's the problem. The problem we have right now is it's taking weeks to encode this thing. It could easily be a full room for a day at just under 720p can take a good 14 hours to encode. We could throw that at faster machines. If we get a couple of i7s, we can significantly increase that. But we're looking at the moment at what CPU options are there. The current generation i7 seems to be ideal, and we also need to think about form factor. The problem at the moment is mainly form factor because we also need to ship this. So we think that the next generation Mini or Desktop Mini might be the best thing to go for, but we're not sure yet. We're still experimenting there. And again, it just depends on price. Again, voluntary organisation, there's not that much money going around. We need to make sure that we're stewarding any budget that we have in the best possible way.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Do you want to pop back up?
Sure. Very well, Tobin. Yeah. All right, so there should still be refreshments and stuff. So if everyone would like to make your way back to the tea, coffee, and pastries, maybe we can do a little bit of chatting before. Thank you very much for coming. And next talk is November 12th. Same time, same place.
When's it going to be online?
So the last time I did this, I was slightly late.
Sorry?
The last time I did this talk, I was slightly late. Because it was a smaller